Dong chicka dong chicka dong chicka chicka dong 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 chicka chicka dong 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 chicka chicka dong 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 chicka dong chicka dong chicka chicka dong 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 chicka chicka dong 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 chicka chicka dong 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 dong. This is an event that happened in my life, 40 years ago, give or take a month. And it's one of the things why I really question what most people say are impossible. It's not that I don't believe in scientific fact, I really do. But I think in God's universe we often get these facts mixed up, and we often make assumptions that just aren't true. And I think that the easiest way that we make these mistakes is if we take out the supernatural factor of our existence. This event that I'm going to talk about happened, well, it happened right after my wife and I were on our honeymoon. We were coming back from our honeymoon and going to my parents' house. And 15 miles away from my parents' house, we saw a rainbow up in the sky, beautiful as they all are. And we noticed as the miles went on that the rainbow itself didn't go away from us. It didn't go with us. Matter of fact, we were getting closer to the rainbow as we drove on. 10 miles away, it had gotten closer, larger in our eyes. 5 miles from my parents' house, it was really increasing in size to an enormous level. And by the time we were on the last stretch toward my parents' house, it was gargantuan. We were getting closer to the rainbow as we drove. And as we pulled up into the driveway, we saw the end of this gigantic rainbow going up into the sky and going over the horizon. And the end of the rainbow was in my parents' backyard. At the time, I did not know that scientists said this was impossible, that it can't happen, because they say that a rainbow is an optical illusion, and therefore it always runs away from you as you approach it. But that's not what happened here. The end of the rainbow was in my parents' backyard, and as we drove up, it was just a few yards away. Huge. And it wasn't any kind of rainbow that you see, you know, when you water your lawn. This was a rainbow that went up into the sky and over the horizon. And as we drove up, like I said, I did not know this was an impossibility, but what I did know was that this was a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. You only see this. If you was to see this, you'd only see it in your parents' backyard once in your lifetime. And so as the rest of the family went inside, marveled at it for a few minutes, I lingered behind because I wanted to savor it. And I was worried I was worried that if I was to go back and get the camera, that it would disappear by the time I got back with the camera. And I wanted to stay with that rainbow as long as possible. And still worried that it would disappear on me, I began to approach it. I walked toward the rainbow, and it was somewhere between 10 and 15 feet wide where it hit the ground. And I kept checking to make sure that I was right, that it was going into the sky. It just was huge. Went into the sky and over the horizon. I can't describe the enormity of the rainbow, even though it was only 10 to 20 feet at its base. It was still so very high, and yet I was still able to see it go up into the sky as it stretched up into the sky. And as I got closer, I got right within a foot of the amber band. And I put my hand in the rainbow. And it was a fascinating effect that I got, in that when I put my hand in the rainbow, my hand turned the same amber color as the band. As if I was looking at my hand through a lens filter of some kind. So I stepped into the rainbow. Now I noticed as I stepped into the rainbow did disappear around me, but when I looked up, it was only about a foot over my head. And I could still see as it arced clear into the sky and over the horizon. And when I put my hand in the yellow band up there, I had the same effect of my hand turning the same color as the rainbow. And the whole time I was worried that it was just gonna disappear on me, and I would never see it again. So I lingered and stayed there. I walked back away from it, backed away from the rainbow, so that I could get the full effect of it staying there. And I lingered as long as I could. And I don't remember if somebody called me from inside the house or what. They may have been asking why I hadn't come in. So I went back into the house, and a few minutes later on, I came back out to see if it was still there. And it was indeed still there, but it was no longer touching the ground. It had disappeared. The part touching the ground had disappeared up to about 5 feet above the ground. And as I watched it, it slowly began to fade away 10 feet above the ground, and finally up into the sky. It was fading away very slowly. It was a slow fade, and as it faded, it would get shorter and shorter, but go up into the sky until finally we couldn't see it anymore. And years later, I found out that scientists say that this is impossible, that you can't do that. It being the optical illusion that they call it. And that it's just not meant to be. But I was there. I saw this. I know that you can walk into the end of the rainbow. I've told very few people about this, and the few that I've told ask me, well, did I find the pot of gold? And I joke back and tell them that, well, I guess it was at the other end. But it was a fact that I saw that I was able to walk into the rainbow. So even though I have respect for scientific data, scientific fact, I know it's not the final word because a lot of times, not all scientists do this, but most of the scientists of today that are heard, they take the supernatural factor out of everything. And if you read in Genesis, you find out that the rainbow is a very supernatural phenomenon. And I don't think that you can know everything about such a phenomenon if you don't consider the supernatural nature of it. But then, that's just my 2 cents. Don chicka don chicka don chicka chicka don 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 chicka chicka don 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 chicka chicka don 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 chicka don chicka don chicka chicka don 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 chicka chicka don 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 chicka chicka don 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 don